Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Today, we are back at the library, dude. We're back at the library vlog part 2. We're going to be doing a lot of these, I think, until I finish all my books that I want to read. I don't know if there's going to be too many other books after, like, my medieval stuff that I want to pick up. I think my reading will probably cease there because the whole point of this is to learn more about medieval times. That's my whole goal with reading these. But if you missed the last vlog, we are reading this bad boy, Le Morte d'Arthur. I think that's how you pronounce it. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. It's Arthur's whole story. I finished book 1 last time. I gave it kind of my good old review. I'm going to get into book... I think it's book 2 is the next part of it, so I'm excited to get into that. I am also listening to Sleep Token. If you haven't listened to Sleep Token, you should. They're great. They're fantastic. But that's probably going to be another one of those albums on my album of the year, so that'll be lots of fun. So basically, if you haven't been here before for these library vlogs, how they go is I go in, I read a little bit. I don't actually vlog anything inside the library because, 1, that's rude. 2, there's actually kids. Well, today's a little quiet. I don't know if there's going to be kids in there, but it can get loud in there, and I don't want to record anything in that library anyway because it is a public library. It's not like a park where I can just kind of go around vlogging, but yeah, that's basically what we're doing. I'm gonna read through these. I'm also gonna take notes because I am not only am I reading for like my knowledge, but also for knowledge of writing. So I want to write stuff about medieval times, specifically in song lyrics, which I think could be really cool in the future. But yeah, that's kind of what we're doing today. It's been a little hectic. You know, this is one of those days where I wanted to go to the library and sit down and record, because then I can't go live. Streams have been a little bit, I don't know, man. Streams have always been, like, inconsistent, to say the least, because, like, I don't always go live every day, which I would love to do. That's my goal, is to go live every day, because that's all I really want to do. Like, I think streaming for me, it's like when I'm most productive, and if I'm not streaming, I have to find ways to be productive, and it can be difficult. It can be trying at times, but yeah, man, this is kind of one of those days where I'm not going to be very productive. This is like the day I have to, you know, I'm going to sit down, read a book, and then in a few hours or so, I will be going to an interview. I don't even know if I probably didn't talk about this in the last library vlog because I wasn't sure what was happening. So back when we finished up the walking around, or I think the second vlog where we were walking in parks, I talked about how, like, I didn't get a position for a job I really wanted, and that's in the same job I work in. It'd basically be a new position with full-time hours. Today, I will be going in for that interview, a second interview, which is weird, because for some reason the guy that got the position never replied or never responded within 10 days. So I get to go in again. I thought I wasn't going to have to do a second interview. I'm going to have to, but I gave my application again. This is like a whole thing, dude. And the thing is about this whole position is I'm probably not going to get it, and I know why. There's a bunch of reasons, but I think it's like has a lot to do with not wanting to, like, because the position I'm in is kind of hard to replace, and I think these people don't want to see me, they don't want me to work in a new position, and they don't want me to leave the position I'm in. It's kind of weird. It's kind of cringe. I hate it. But I'm going to do my best on this interview, and hey, if I don't get it, I don't get it. And I think, like, at the end of the day, I'll know why I didn't get it, so, you know, it's a real funny situation. But, yeah, so that's what I'm doing after this. But obviously, you know, I'll go in, read, and I'll let you guys know what I thought of book 2, which I will probably finish and wrap up. We'll see. Book 1. See, the thing is, like, I didn't just read book 1. I read Introduction as well for Le Morte d'Arthur. So I think we're probably going to get through book 2 really quick. Don't know about book 3. We'll see what happens. But anyway, I thought I'd introduce the series once again because, again, probably there's not a lot of people that know what we're doing today. So. But yeah, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna read a little bit, do a little bit of light reading, And yeah, I will see you guys when I'm back from my reading. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. All right, we're back. So, I read about 2 books out of this whole... It's weird that they're like this is a whole book about King Arthur, but like it's weird. So like the books, I think I mentioned this in the first video, but it's structured like, you know, each chapter is a book. Each chapter is a book, and inside of each, it's like a book within a book almost, because each chapter is a book, and each book has several chapters in it. But the chapters continue throughout each book. So it's really odd, but man, so far, I mean, it's getting pretty good, you know? I think like book 1, I think like the introduction in book 1 were kind of all about King Arthur. I mean, the introduction was more so to introduce like, hey, this is who you're going to be reading about. You should know like what happened to him and all that sort of stuff. And then book 1 was like, here's the story of how Arthur started his, you know, reign as king. And then reading book 2 and book 3, and I'm going to talk a little bit about spoilers or what I read about. Book 2 didn't really talk about Arthur too much. Arthur's like, currently Arthur is like, he's like a background character now. So far of what I'm reading. Like, he's not in the priority of the story at the moment. Because, like, I don't know, maybe he's taking a back seat, or he's just doing his king job or whatever. But yeah, there's someone walking behind me. That's crazy. Anyway, so book 2, mainly focused on this guy who, I don't know, like this guy named Balin. That's like the main character of this entire book. He is the main dude. He do be the main dude. Arthur's not even, he's not even the main character anymore. And it's funny because the book is about Arthur, but it's also about the Knights of the Round Table. So you could say like the book isn't just about Arthur. It's more so about the knights as well. So it's about King Arthur, but it's about the Knights of the Round Table. So at least that's how I see it. I'm going to set this book aside because it keeps falling off. There we go. Okay, so book 2 is about this guy named Balin. I guess it's like this lady showed up in the story, and she's like, yo, I got this sword in a sheath. Whoever, like, bring a knight over to me. Have the knight pull the sword out, as long as he's like, you know, basically the knight who pulls it out can't be violent, or, you know, he can't have a violent history or something like that. He has to be like full of goodwill. It's kind of weird. And so this guy Balin, he pulls the sword out easily, kind of like how it's almost like a mirror to, it's almost a mirror to like Arthur pulling the sword out of the stone, which is not Excalibur. I think I mentioned that in the first video, but it's kind of a mirror to that, and he pulls it out easily. And so I guess Balin, like, the lady's like, okay, you got the sword, now give it back. It's like, wait a second, what's happening? So that happens. She gives it, but he doesn't give it back to her, and she wants it back. And so she says, okay, well, you're probably gonna die if you don't give it back. There's a lot of, I will say, like, in this whole story, there's a lot of characters that are like, there's a lot of characters that for some reason know your fate, like Merlin a lot of times, like, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and everyone's just like, okay. But then there's also a lot of characters that are like, okay, if you don't do this, this is gonna happen. It's like, I wouldn't say there's like a lot of, I don't know if I'd call it gaslighting, but there's a lot of like, I don't know, these people are trusting other people like, okay, I believe you. You're telling me this is going to happen if I don't do this, so I'm just going to help you out. It's like, there's a lot of themes of that in like both the books. But, so yeah, Sky Balin gets a sword, he's about to leave, and then the Lady of the Lake who gave Arthur Excalibur, she comes back, and she's like, okay, I want my favor now. And I guess her favor was, I want Balin, the guy who just got that sword. She wants him dead. That's the favor. And Arthur's like, well, I can't do that. And then I guess the Lady of the Lake also wanted the lady who brought the sword over dead as well. It was either him or her. And Arthur's like, I can't do that. And then for some reason, apparently Balin has a grudge against the Lady of the Lake. And Balin just cuts her head off. Like, just, she dies? And Arthur's like, what have you done? And Balin's like, he explains why he did what he did. And he kills her. And then he takes her head with him. And then he ends up leaving. Now, we're going to skip ahead in my little summary of what I've read so far. Because this is this is where it gets confusing. And where I'm just like, okay. Like, I accept it. Basically, Balin ends up, he goes on this journey to find King Rience. I don't know if that's how you say his name, but King Rience is the guy who has a grudge against Arthur, at like the end of book 1, I believe. And Balin goes and he brings Rience to Arthur. There's like a whole like in between of this entire story. I'm not going to get into it, but because there's a lot of plot that develops in between all of this. Now Balin ends up bringing the king to him, and with his brother Balan. And what happens is, Balin brings this guy to him, and apparently Arthur doesn't know who Balin is now. Like, he brings the king to him, and Merlin kind of explains, like, who they are. And for some reason, King Arthur's like, oh my god, this guy's so cool, I like him now. Now, I don't... Okay, it's like... Because apparently Arthur just forgot all about Balin, who killed this Lady of the Lake. And then, apparently, I don't know if Balin was disguised or something. He must have been, but Merlin's like, oh, this guy's Balin, and that's his brother Balan, and they brought you this guy. And suddenly Arthur's just cool with Balin. Like, I thought he was going to bring up, wait a minute, this guy killed that lady. We can't trust him. But, yeah, so that happened. And that's where I was like, that's not the end of book 2, but like, book 2 is kind of a long and lengthy book, because basically how it ends, which is kind of wild, because after King Rience is brought to Arthur, Balin just ends up going on a bunch of like crazy adventures, and there's a point where he's asked to joust against someone, and apparently Balin ends up jousting against his brother Balan, and they both don't know it. And both of them end up dying. Now, there's a lot of, like, obviously there's a lot, I'm just mentioning, like, the major points. But yeah, both the brothers, Balan and Balin, end up killing each other in a joust and in a duel. And they had no idea that they were, like, it was them. Like, they had no idea it was, they were kin. So, that's how their story ends. Balin ends up dying, like the girl who brought the sword over anyway. Prophesized that you're gonna die. So it happened by his brother's hands, which it's a wild story. Now again, book 3 and book 2 are kind of like, they're not the same, but they don't focus on Arthur as much, which is kind of like this bummer. But book 3 goes into like what? Book 3 is all about Arthur getting married. And being married to Guinevere, I think, is her name. And this happens. And there's a whole feast that happens. And there's so much, like, in between. But the main story is, like, 3 nights. 3 nights go on a quest. And I don't even know what really happened. I just know, like, there was a whole incident at this wedding. Or at this feast. And, this guy gonna park next to me? Don't do it. Okay, no. But there's this whole incident at this feast, and Arthur's just mad about it, and he's like, I don't even know what happened. When I was reading it, I was just like, what is going on? So, Arthur sends these 3 knights, 2 knights and a king out on each individual quest. And this is the first time quests have been brought up with knights, because I know, like, questing was mentioned in the introduction, like, oh, these knights, they went on, like, great quests and whatnot. But yeah, so that happened. They went on individual quests. The first night, I guess, ended up like going after something, and he ended up like he was about to behead the knight that he was fighting. I don't remember all their names. I do remember like there was Tor, I think, Gawain, Pelennor. I think those were the knights' names. Pelennor being the king. I'm not gonna just remember their names off the bat, but this first night, Gawain, he was gonna behead a knight, but instead beheads a lady that the lady loved the knight. And apparently that brought shame, and like I don't know what happened after that. I guess like 4 ladies, I guess his arm got shot by an arrow, and then these 4 ladies came out and like, okay, leave these guys alive, like don't kill them. And they're brought to Arthur's court, and I guess Gawain's like forever shamed or something. It's a whole thing. And then the second night goes on another quest to get like, I don't know what it's called, like it's called a brochet, but I don't know what it, like there's so much about this whole feast incident that I'm just so confused about. But anyways, the other night, Tor goes on this quest to essentially he gets this thing back, and he does it in the, I think he's like the most noblest out of all the knights, because like he does everything right. He jousts to get what he needs, but he just does everything right, and then he goes back to Arthur's court like a hero, like one of the best knights. And then the third night, or I guess the King Pelennor, there's a lady and a knight that are like wounded, or a knight that's wounded, and the lady's like crying for help, and the knight Pelennor ignores. He basically ignores the knight and the lady, and is so focused on his quest that the lady ends up killing herself, and the knight dies, and they're both dead there. Now, the freaking the King Pelennor, he ends up succeeding on his quest. He does his quest right. However, the lady that he went to go and get, because that's part of his quest, the lady he went to go and get, basically said, oh, you need to bring that lady's head with you, because apparently she was beheaded or something, I don't know. But he brings it to Arthur's court, and he's supposed to swear on, like, he swears on, like, a Bible or something that, about how his quest went down. I guess out of all 3 of the quests that happened, and this is it's so confusing, but out of the 3 quests, Tor did the best. It was kind of like almost like a challenge. Like, Tor did the best, Pelennor did he was second best, and then obviously Gawain did the worst on his quest. But like, I guess it was a way for the knights to prove how well they could do on a quest. It was wild though. It was wild just reading through the entire book. I hope book 4, which I want to read through, eventually we'll do it. I hope book 4 focuses more on Arthur. I want to learn more about Arthur. I feel like the knights are also a part of the story, but at the same time, like, I don't want Arthur to be a background character. If he's a background character throughout the entire thing, it might kill the book for me, but I don't know. But anyway, that was book 2 and book 3. We will do this again at some point down the road. I don't know when. I can't tell you when. Whenever I have time, we'll come back here and we'll read some more, because now we're on to book 4. I'll probably read through book 4 and book 5 and then call it good. I might read through more. I don't know. It all depends on what I can remember. But yeah, the book so far is really good. I'm excited to read through it some more. But yeah, that is for another time though. But thank you guys for watching. If you did, I appreciate it a ton. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.